Vikings, let's win the game.
Vikings fans, look, I'm going to tell you, things behind the scenes with the Vikings heated up in a way nobody really saw coming. There was a major departure and an unexpected statement from Jonathan Greenard that split the fan base. There's a risky bet coming out of the draft, even with physical concerns. And according to one source, quarterback J.J. McCarthy's days with the team are numbered. And when you connect all of that, this starts feeling less like normal off-season noise and more like a turning point. Man, this first story hits a lot deeper than it looks. Seriously, because this isn't just any trade. This is one of those moves where you feel the impact goes way beyond the field. The Vikings decided to trade Jonathan Greenard to the Eagles. And when that news dropped, a lot of people didn't get it right away. Because we're talking about a productive guy, a pass rusher who brought constant pressure and helped the defense breathe in critical moments. To be completely honest with you, this does not make the team better today. It really doesn't. And the front office basically admitted that. But this wasn't just about on-field performance. It was about money. It was about roster structure. It was about long-term planning. Greenard wanted a bigger deal. He wanted to move up financially in the league. And the Vikings basically said, "We like you, but not at that price." And here's the part that makes this more complicated. They didn't lock him down. They didn't hold him just to hold him. They gave him the freedom to go find that deal somewhere else. And he did. He landed in Philadelphia with a major contract, the kind you get when you bet on yourself and win. And that's the cold side of the NFL. Business is business. Now, the return, 2 third-round picks, one this year and another next year. And they already used one of them in the draft. That tells you this wasn't a panic move. It was calculated. But still, I keep thinking, was it worth it? Because pressuring the quarterback is not easy to replace. It's not plug and play. You don't just swap a guy out and expect the same impact. There's also the salary cap factor. The team was starting to do too many financial gymnastics, every year pushing problems down the road. And eventually, that catches up with you. So this trade is also about resetting things financially, trying to breathe again without being tied down by heavy contracts. But at the same time, you're removing a key piece from a system that depended on that pressure. And that's where the football side gets uncomfortable. For me, it raises a big question. Who steps into that role now? Because you can't just talk about the future. The season is coming, and this defense is going to be tested early. And one more thing. This kind of move sends a message inside the locker room. It shows that nobody is untouchable, not even guys who produce. That can bring the team together, or it can create doubt. And sometimes that matters more than any stat line. Tell me in the comments, would you have made this trade or kept him one more year? Because the fallout from this move tells us a lot about where the Vikings really stand. And that's where things get even heavier. And when you look at the other side of this story, that's where it really hits. Because this isn't just about a front office decision, it's about emotion. Jonathan Greenard spoke publicly after the trade and dropped a message that, honestly, hits any fan who's been paying attention. It wasn't cold, it wasn't scripted, it felt real. You could tell he actually lived that experience. He thanked the organization, thanked them for the opportunity, talked about the bonds inside that locker room, and made it clear the respect is still there, even after leaving. That whole business is business line, but with real emotion behind it. You can tell when it's just a standard statement and when it's genuine. To be completely honest with you, this shows there was no ugly breakup, no drama, no bad blood. It was a separation, painful but mature. But that doesn't make it easier to accept, because when a player leaves like that, making it clear he gave everything he had, the feeling is, man, maybe they could have kept him a little longer. And I know a lot of fans felt exactly that. And there's another detail people aren't talking about enough. Even with the recent injury, his advanced metrics were still strong. Constant pressure, real impact on games. He wasn't declining. He was still someone who could help a lot. But the plan moved forward, and now the responsibility shifts. Dallas Turner is now in that conversation with way more weight on his shoulders. A young, talented player, but no longer just a prospect. Now he's expected to deliver. Now it's go out there and make it happen. And that's a totally different kind of pressure. That's where the fan base splits. Some people believe this opens the door for growth. Others think the team just got weaker in the short term. And honestly, both sides have a point. Because losing a proven player is never easy. But at the same time, you create space for someone new to rise. The problem is, that takes time. And the NFL doesn't usually wait. Another thing, this kind of departure affects the locker room. When a respected player leaves like that, everyone feels it. It can create motivation. It can create silence. It can create internal pressure. And that will show up on the field. There's no hiding it. So let me ask you, do you think the team handled this well or let go of someone who still made a difference? because now the Vikings are asking young talent to grow fast, and the next move shows just how much risk they're willing to live with. Now, this next story has a completely different tone. This isn't about leaving. This isn't about goodbyes. This is about a gamble, and the kind that gets half the fan base excited, and the other half nervous. The Vikings used a high pick to bring in Caleb Banks, and as soon as the name came in, the question followed. What about the injury? Because everyone knew he was coming off a serious foot issue, but at the same time, the talent was always there, and that weighed heavily in the decision. To be completely honest with you, this is a calculated risk. It's not a blind shot, but it's also not a guarantee. It's the kind of move that, if it hits, changes the level of your defense. But if it misses, it's going to be questioned for a long time. And that's why this pick matters so much. And what really stands out is what Brian Flores told him. No over-the-top pressure, no big promises. Straight to the point. Keep your head down and work. Get healthy. When the time comes, dominate. That says a lot about how this coaching staff operates. They're not rushing the process. They're building it. And another thing that stood out. Versatility. He was told he could play across multiple spots on the defensive line. In Flores' system, that's gold, because this defense is built on confusion, pressure from everywhere, constant movement, and a player who can fit multiple roles becomes a key piece. But let's be real here, he barely played last season, missed a lot of time, so you can't expect immediate, massive impact, and that's where the fan base splits again. Some people are saying, this guy can become a monster in this league. Others are thinking, we needed someone ready right now. And both arguments make sense, because when you're trying to compete, every pick matters. It's not just about the future, it's about the present too. But clearly the team saw something in him, something other teams may have passed on because of the injury. And when you hear that he could be cleared to return soon, that changes the outlook. It brings hope. Now if he comes back and delivers, the narrative flips completely, from risky to a massive win. But if it takes time, the pressure builds fast. Let me know. Did you like this pick, or do you think the team reached? Because the next part is quieter, but don't sleep on it. It directly impacts the offense, and it involves a name that could shift how this team plays. And look, what happened on offense during the draft might go under the radar for a lot of people, but it shouldn't. Because this tells you a lot about the team's plan. The Vikings brought in Bredeson, and right away, people were like, okay, but what's the real idea here? Because it's not a flashy move. It's not headline material. But when you take a closer look, it starts to make sense. To be completely honest with you, this is identity. This is the team saying they're not walking away from physical run football. They still want to control the clock, still want to support the quarterback through the ground game. And there's an important detail here. He comes in right after the departure of a fan favorite, a guy who represented leadership, effort, and respect inside the locker room. Replacing that is never easy, not even close. Bredeson brings interesting traits. He's versatile, has played multiple roles, blocks well, brings energy. He's the type of player who doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but impacts plays in the details. And those details matter when a quarterback is trying to settle in. But let's not overhype it either. He's not coming in as a finished product. There are limitations. He's going to have to earn his spot. The NFL doesn't hand out roles like that. And here's where it connects directly to the quarterback. He and McCarthy have played together before, won together. There's chemistry there, there's trust, and in the middle of a season, that can matter. Another thing, the simple fact that McCarthy stayed on the roster through the draft says a lot. A lot of people thought he could be moved. That didn't happen. That keeps the door open for competition, or at least for multiple options. And honestly, after what this team went through with injuries, it makes sense not to close doors right now. But it also raises a question. Is this confidence in his development or just lack of a clear decision? Because when everything stays open, it can be strategy or it can be indecision, and players feel that. Now, about Bredeson, he can be that type of piece that strengthens the physical game, helps in blocking, brings balance to the offense. He won't be the star, but he might be essential, and sometimes those are the players who swing big games quietly. So let me ask you, does this move make the offense better, or is it just depth without real impact? Because after that setup, the quarterback question gets even louder, and the next story goes straight at the future of this team. And now, take a breath before you hear this, because this is one of those takes that splits any fan base right down the middle. A former NFL player came out with a strong statement saying that McCarthy's days with the team may be numbered, and it wasn't subtle. It was blunt, direct. To be completely honest with you, when you hear something like that, your first reaction is to push back. Say, no, hold on, it's not that simple. But when you look at the full picture, it starts to make more sense than people would like. Because there's another name in that locker room now. A player who didn't come in to sit. He came to play. He came to compete. And then it becomes simple NFL logic. If that guy steps on the field and produces, the conversation is over. There's no sentiment. No, he was a high pick. No past. And that's tough. McCarthy came in with huge expectations. Missed his first year with an injury. Came back and didn't fully establish himself. And now he's in a position where he has to prove everything in a short window. That is a hard place for any young quarterback. And it gets worse. The person who drafted him is no longer there. That changes things behind the scenes. Because when the guy who believed in you leaves, you lose that layer of protection. Now you have to convince a new vision, new leadership, a new plan. And that's never easy. At the same time, you can't lock anything in right now. The coaching staff might still see upside, might want to develop him, might believe in his growth. But the pressure has changed levels. This is no longer about patient development. It's about survival on the roster. And then there's another factor, team performance. If the offense looks better with another quarterback, that matters. If it doesn't, the door opens again. It's a constant balance. And the fans, they feel it fast. Once opinions split, the environment changes. Support turns into pressure quickly. And that can speed up decisions internally. So this isn't a final verdict, but it is a warning, a loud one, because if the season starts and things don't click, this conversation comes back even stronger, and then there might not be a way back. And when you put all of this together, major departure, risky bet, offensive adjustment, and pressure at quarterback, you start to see a bigger picture forming, something way beyond a normal offseason. Everything we just went through isn't just a set of random headlines. It's a snapshot of where the Vikings are right now, a team trying to reset, making tough calls, moving key pieces, and at the same time dealing with pressure from every direction. There was a painful exit, a respectful goodbye, a gamble that could turn into gold, or a problem, a quiet offensive adjustment, and a heavy shadow hanging over the most important position on the field. Being completely honest with you, this is not stability. This is transition. And in the NFL, transition either pushes you forward or sends you backward fast. But one thing is certain, anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football knows when the team is truly being tested, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So tell me, does this moment give you confidence or concern? Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings. Let's go.